Game Boy. There's no like any end to that. You did it on. They did an orchestra cover of Tetris. What proves Christianity? The transcendental argument for God. My connection's lagging? I'm not lagging on my end. The God of Heisenberg. Dude, this frickin' like comparing God to Santa Claus is so low tier. So like children are told at a certain age, like 10 or something, that Santa Claus isn't real. How is this comparable to God? Like, do we tell children that God isn't real when they're 10? No. Fucking goofy people, man. Like, literally all the atheist arguments are just cliches and platitudes. They instantly fall apart. Yo, Renegade, those people were so... on that panel, they were really unique. Very, very unique. Dude, atheist cute. Dude, Q-Top, get the fuck out of here. Fucking flat earther. They're a tough crowd, yeah. It's pretty tough to reason with someone who's never read a book in their life. Debate on flat earth? There's no flat earth debate. George Orwell wrote an article on flat earth. And he says, so like, there's like Euclidean geometry and then there's spherical geometry. And so people navigate the ocean based on spherical geometry. They don't use Euclidean geometry. And if people can navigate the ocean based on math that says the Earth is a sphere, then the Earth is a freaking sphere. They would be getting lost if that wasn't the case. I'm a flat earther? What? No, Q-Top wanted to debate flat earth. I don't want to debate flat earth. Atheism is baseless and irrational because it's like an emotional position. It's not an evidence-based position. Yeah. Yeah, okay, Michael. The book is not the authority because why? Your opinion? Bro doesn't know what objective means. Good luck. Welcome, Absolute.
Hey, baby.
What would you like to say?
Uh, are there any chicks here?
Yeah. All right, well, have a nice day, butthead. Yeah, butthead. Let's set something on fire. I am Cornholio. I need teepee for my bunghole. Do you got teepee? I'm scared of your question, yeah. What? I'm scared of like what is the definition of objective? Scared of it. One piece of objective proof for Christianity, the transcendental argument for God. God is necessary for facts, so any fact would implicitly be a fact that would indicate God exists, since all facts must reference God ultimately. God does not talk or write? Sure, he does. Religion's just ancient man trying to explain the universe and coming out with bad solutions. Yeah, and science is just a tool for the elite to oppress the masses and get them to say things like that via propaganda. How do you know God writes? Lol, do you see him do it? Lol. The Bible's the self-attesting word of God. So, if you don't take I take the Bible as the authoritative word of God. If you don't think the Bible's the authority, I'd be curious what would be the authority that's not the Bible. Not everything you dislike is satanic. That's called circular logic. Yeah. Circular atheism. Wait, are you using words? And did you prove the meaning of words with other words? Isn't that circular? Isn't that isn't anything you say circular? How do you talk about words without being circulars? Yeah, words are defined by other words. Therefore, the meaning of words is circular. Therefore, everything you say is circular. Circular reasoning. Duh, circular reasoning. Duh. Try to be a good person. You don't try to be a good person. You humble yourself and admit that you're a shit person. Welcome, Guy.
Thank you for having me.
What would you like to say?
I'm I'm looking at number two where you say Christianity is objectively proven. How could Christianity possibly be objectively proven?
Um, I would prove God as sort of like a. Well, we would use a transcendental proof, and a transcendental argument is an argument about boundary. So I would prove God is like a necessary foundational belief without which you couldn't like speak about anything with that any intelligent. There would be no meaning to anything you say.
That don't sound objective. That seems more subjective.
No, it's subjective.
What you
It,
what you just said is objective.
it's an objective proof, yeah, because the proof doesn't rely on like my opinion or something, right?
Christianity is hold on. You mean Christianity as its preached in the church is objectively proven,
Correct. The
not
Bible.
God. Christianity.
Yeah, the whole Christian worldview, yeah. The Christian model of reality.
Okay, and what I'm trying to understand from your point of view, how is it objectively proven?
Yeah, as like a transcendental proof. We use transcendental arguments to prove like starting point beliefs, and God's the most foundational belief we can have because he's the creator. He's ultimate.
Hmm. So maybe what is a transcendental proof?
A transcendental proof is so it takes a fact about our mental life. Like it'll take like I'll take the fact that we have knowledge and that we can know things, and I'll go, well, what other fact has to be true for me to have knowledge? And then I can demonstrate that the Christian God necessarily exists for me to have knowledge.
Okay. Well, maybe you should. Maybe number two should be God is objectively proven because you keep explaining God and not Christianity.
Well, I'm talking about the Christian God.
Right. Which is it's only one God if you want to be technical about it. It's only one universe. Surely there's only one creator. But you said Christianity is objectively proven.
Yes.
But when I ask you about it, you keep going back to proving God.
Okay. So,
Do you separate the two, or do you think Christianity and God are synonymous? Is that what you're saying?
well, there's like a generic concept of God that we could talk about, but there's, I mean, I'm arguing specifically for the Christian God because I'm saying that like God has to reveal himself in human history, and the God who did that with the perfect attribute set is the Christian God. And if you deny that, then you couldn't make sense of anything. Couldn't be
Well, maybe I should ask this question: why is not gods from other religions objectively proven?
the gods from other religions don't have the necessary attributes like the Christian God does. So they wouldn't.
According to
The transcendental challenge. You have to be able to account for the necessary preconditions of intelligibility.
Hold on,
Or
could you repeat that?
a worldview has to account or explain the what the, how we can understand the world. And if your worldview can't explain how you can know things, understand the world, then that's a self-defeating worldview. And since uniquely the Christian worldview has the attribute set to explain how we can know the world, it's necessarily true to understand the world.
Have you studied any other religions or worldviews from any other religion?
I mean, not nearly as much as Christianity,
Which ones have you studied?
like Taoism, Buddhism, Islam, Judaism, Hinduism.
So the God that they subscribe to cannot be objectively proven,
Correct.
but yours can be objectively proven.
That's right. Because they have different attributes than the Christian God. Like the Christian God is triune. None of the other gods are triune. And if your God's not triune, that's a big problem. Because in order
Could you
to,
explain what you mean by triune?
yeah, it's like there's three persons in one Godhead.
Okay. Could you explain
Trinity.
that?
Like you've never heard of the Trinity?
Of course I have, but I've never had anybody to give me a rational explanation or reasonable explanation of it.
What's there to explain? It's just there's three. God is three persons.
You don't think the Trinity needs an explanation? You think a person should just be able to understand that one person is three persons?
Yeah.
Okay, does that make logical sense at face value? One person is three persons?
At face value, maybe not,
If
but
if I walk into an establishment and I say I'm three people, would the average person be able to understand what I'm referring to?
I don't know. They might think that, like you're three people in the sense that like you're a father, you're a son, and you're a husband. Those are like
But
different roles.
but what you preface that with is they may think. I mean, they don't really know. The average person wouldn't know. They probably would think I was nuts. And I guess what I'm saying is it's not really as easy to understand as you may think it is. It's kind of a complicated subject.
Yeah, I guess I haven't really studied it, but
And it's easy to say that it's three people, but what does that actually mean?
there's three distinct like persons. Like what's a person? They're called a hypostasis.
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't know why is this important. Like I'm not really here to talk about the Trinity.
Uh, I guess it's not important, but it kind of goes back to number two. It's like Christians seem to say things, but they have no reasonable, rational explanation for why they say it, other than it's in the book and you should believe it because it's in the book. Even if it
Yeah.
disagrees with science, even if it disagrees with reality, even if it disagrees with personal feelings, just because it's in the book, we should
Well,
believe
yeah,
it.
yeah. We're saying the book is the self-attesting word of God, and if you deny that, you'll be reduced to an absurdity where science would be impossible. So science couldn't function without the Bible.
So the Bible is the word of God.
Yeah,
So why are there authors' names attributed to each book?
because God uses humans like avatars to like speak or write for him.
So God used people to speak. It wasn't God, it was God using people to speak for him.
Do you know what an avatar is?
Sort of. You can kind of give me a.
Like God controls their body and
Oh,
guides them. So God takes control of them and makes them say things or write things. So in that moment, God is actually doing that. It's like when you load into a video game, you take control of the character, right?
right.
Your avatar. So God can sort of take control of a human being like a video game character.
So when you say God wrote the Bible or used these men to wrote the Bible, are you inferring that every word in it is correct and true?
Yeah. Except for like there's errors that are known, like scribal errors where like people write copying it, maybe got a word wrong here or there or something, or crossed a
Well,
T.
well, that's what I was going to go back to. God may have used the original authors to write the scriptures, but did what a in translation there's gonna be obvious errors in translating the subject to interpretation. Did God also guide the translators?
There's no errors in translation. We have a science of hermeneutics where we can objectively interpret what scripture means.
Is is translation not subject to interpretation?
There's a science of interpretation. There's no issue with interpretation. We have an objective science, so we know how to interpret the Bible. It's called hermeneutics.
So everyone who reads the Bible will get the same interpretation, is what you're saying.
If they use hermeneutics, yeah.
What's
If they
what's
just believe what if they're like an atheist and they just believe whatever they want to be true, then no.
what's hermeneutics?
It's a science of interpretation.
Okay, so I'm assuming that the church is not using this science because it's maybe like 1,000 different denominations who have a different interpretation of the scriptures.
I
So
mean,
which specific faith is using the hermeneutic method to determine the objective, uh, actual truth of the Bible without having to interpret it?
dude, everyone has Bible scholars, and Bible scholars use hermeneutics to objectively interpret the Bible. And then there's like disagreements over like minor issues, but like all Christians agree on the core pillars.
All Christians agree on the core pillars.
Yeah.
which is Christ died on the cross.
Like something like the Nicene Creed or something like that.
Hold on, you said the Nicene Creed?
Yeah.
That's not in the Bible, the Nicene Creed.
So what? It's the core beliefs of Christianity.
And where did that come from?
I don't know.
So you don't know where your beliefs came from?
They come from God. Look, do you have any? What do you got, man? Can you defend? What the hell are you? Are you an atheist?
The Nicene Creed,
Look,
uh,
answer my question. Are you an atheist?
no, I'm not.
What are you?
I'm a Christian.
You're a Christian. Okay, why
Can,
are you fucking grilling me then? What the fuck's wrong
may,
with you?
may I ask you a question? Why is it that Christians always get upset when they can't defend their religion and start yelling? Or either say,
Well,
you can't
because you're sitting
understand
here asking me questions about Christianity, and then it comes to find out you're a fucking Christian. So you've been fucking deceiving me.
questions that you can't answer about your own faith?
Go
So you
fuck
get
yourself.
upset?
Go fuck yourself.
I love you too, bro.
This is why there's atheists, I guess. What a piece of shit. Question you can't answer. I'm not a fucking Am I a fucking Bible scholar, dipshit? Does it say, come up here, I'm a preacher and Bible scholar, and I know everything about Christianity? It doesn't fucking say that. It says atheism sucks, Christianity is proven, and science is impossible without God. That's what I'm here to fucking talk about. I'm not here to teach you about Christianity. And you're a fucking Christian. What the fuck is wrong with you? Horrible person. Prove it. Yeah, the transit. Oh, same dumbass. Yeah, I'm just gonna mute you, Corey. Go fuck yourself. You're not welcome here. Fucking people, dude. I don't appreciate your ruse. Okay, it's not cool to ruse people, man. Yeah, total pig stink. You don't know Christianity. I'm the best Christian. Fuck. Fucking Pharisee and the tax collector. Right there. I have a question about the Bible being necessary for science. Don't want to get heated. Oh god. Watch, he's gonna be annoying. What's up?
Hey, hey, what's up? Well, okay, that's fine. No, nothing. I just, you said something a second ago about you need the Bible in order to do science.
Yeah.
Something. I just wonder. Let's say like if all the Bibles were burned tomorrow, what do you think would happen?
I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, that's all. Thanks for the combo.
Alright.
I love you. I love you.
Just like creepy people. What if all the Bibles were burned? What would happen? What the fuck is that? I don't even understand. Fucking weird people, dude. Oh my god. Thanks for the follow. So I'm reading the book The Ethics of Freedom. It's a book about Christian ethics, and like it's kind of like actually The author believes like a Christian is supposed to live out their like Christianity is a way of life that we have to like live as a Christian. Some like in Eastern Orthodox, sometimes they'll have like Christian monks that like shut themselves off from the world and just dedicate themselves to God entirely. But God wants us to be in the world with the other people. We're supposed to be like a light in the darkness, spreading love. I can't remember where was I at here. Oh, we were talking about alienation. So alienation is the idea that you feel powerless, like you're subject to forces beyond your understanding that control your life, or you feel like no one really is gonna cares about you or is willing to help you. You're kind of on your own. And what else was it? Um, life feels meaningless, and the events you experience don't seem to have value or purpose. And you become disconnected from your own life, so you stop caring about your future, goals, or even your existence. So, like, imagine you're working at a job you hate, you feel powerless because you can't change the way things are. You don't see any purpose in what you're doing. It's absurd. You feel like no one at work or in society cares about your struggles. Eventually, you get so fed up you stop caring about your career or your goals. And this is alienation, not just because of the system, but because of like how it makes you feel as an individual. So we're living in a world that's alienating us. Our jobs force us to be like people we aren't. Society forces you to be something you're not. Um, you're we're well, like the left tries to make it out like there's like a group of people in power oppressing others, or there's like a simple system created for a specific group of people that's oppressing other people. But that's not the reality of the situation. The reality is that there's a bunch of interconnected reciprocal systems like economic systems, bureaucratic systems, agricultural systems, entertainment systems, like all these systems in the world, they're all interconnected and it's like so freaking complex. And we're utterly, as humans, dependent upon these systems for our survival. Like without economics, everything would collapse. Without agricultural systems, we wouldn't be able to feed people. So now these systems that we've created to like make our life easier, we become dependent on. And all these systems are like it's almost like these systems are this like AI. There's like no human is in control anymore. It's this like ambiguous complex system. So we have no idea what is guiding our lives. And that gives us this like sense of alienation and powerlessness. And then we go to work these jobs and we're like, why am I doing this stupid job? And we just feel disconnect. We're disconnecting ourselves from our own like humanity to serve this like technological society. I got a meme for that, I think. I got the I hope made by Jim Bob. Would he be mad I'm stealing all his memes? Here's a Christian. Christmas memes. So these three factors like loss of control, lack of motivation, and lack of information combine to make a person feel disconnected or alienated from their environment, society, or even other people. And it's not like you're completely alienated or not at all alienated. There's varying degrees of how like disconnected you could feel. Um, Like imagine you start a new job and you don't know what you're doing and no one explains the job to you. So you lack information that you would be disconnected from your job. You just do tasks because they're assigned to you without understanding their purpose. So like if you don't know like why am I doing my job, that's going to entail like a lack of motivation. And you feel like nothing you do will change how things work at the company because you're just like a low level employee, so you have no control over your situation. And this makes you feel detached, like you don't belong or matter. And that's like alienation in action. This is like the situation for all of us. Understanding this can help us recognize why people feel disconnected and how to address it. And I think this is important because of the look at all the mental health crisis we're facing, and. So what can we do? Could we give people more control over their lives? Could we give them clearer information or a stronger sense of purpose? I think Christianity can provide these things, right? Since Christ defeats death, we have more control over our lives. We're not determined to being unalived. We can our choices. We can we can affect if by choosing a relationship with Jesus if we want to have eternal life or not. We can have more knowledge because revelation, we get clearer information of like who we are, what the world is, and our purpose in the world through Christianity. And we also get it. That's pretty much it. I'll go down. So, alienation, the feeling of being disconnected or estranged from something, is more than just a technical term used by sociology or psychology. It has a deep emotional component that is just as important as the intellectual or scientific side. So, there's an objective side where sociologists, psychologists might study alienation by looking at external factors like how people feel powerless in their jobs or isolated in society. There's also a subjective side because it's personal and emotional to the actual people, how it feels to be alienated. This is part of an inner experience. So alienation isn't just about external observations. There's internal aspects. And the emotional aspect is of alienation, like the frustration, sadness, or emptiness people feel, is an essential part of understanding it. If we ignore the emotional side, we're left with a cold, incomplete picture that doesn't fully capture what alienation really means to people. Yes, it's Marxist. So it's basically just it's a better term for oppression. Like when the left talks about how we're oppressed, it's really alienation. It's not really like an oppression. That's not the best word, but they're similar. So, um, yeah, Karl Marx, he wasn't just about like systems or structures like capitalism. He also talked about the emotional and the human dimension of alienation. It affects people's lives deeply, not just how they work or live, but how they feel and relate to the world. And to truly understand alienation, you need both a clear analytical view, like what causes alienation, how it works, and you need the warm emotional understanding of what it feels like to live through alienation. And leaving out either part would make the concept incomplete and less meaningful. So a sociologist might explain that this happens because of the structure of the workplace. You're doing repetitive tasks, have no control, etc. But the emotional experience, right? That's different from like feeling bored, frustrated, or like your job doesn't matter. That's just as important. If we only focus on the external facts and ignore the emotional side, we'll miss the full reality of why alienation is such a powerful concept. It's not just a technical problem to be solved, alienation. It's a deeply human experience that combines facts and feelings. Ignoring its emotional dimension means missing out on why it resonates so strongly with people and why it's such an important idea in understanding modern life. Okay. And that's where we were at. So, along such lines, one might arrive at a form which can be manipulated and utilized, but which does not correspond to what alienation is for the man who is alienated. I believe that in truth, alienation is a moral category rather than a sociological or psychological category. But as a moral category, does it take a certain reality of man into account or not? This is the question. For this situation may present itself as a way of living it rather than a situation as such. From this standpoint, there is no alienated situation in itself. A man may live out his condition as one that alienates, whereas another in exactly the same position may not have this experience. Mass production offers a good example. Some workers are well adapted to this and do not feel truncated or alienated by their job. We have here a matter of subjective interpretation. Different people have different experiences in the same condition, even if by and large the situation of workers today, which is far better than it was 100 years ago, is in fact one of alienation. I love these memes. Wait, where's the God? Oh, here it is. Gods don't real. All right. What? Who's on? Tradition over truth? What are you talking about? Only Christians have the truth. The truth is a man. His name is Jesus. Alienation has to be seen, then, as a situation which can be considered from the external standpoint. Ultimately, however, it can be viewed as alienation only in terms of a given model of man. This is why we say that it is a moral category. Only as we project a given type of man into the situation can we say that this man is alienated. Now, we live in a certain society which has a certain positive concept of man that we share, and in terms of which we can speak of alienated man if he cannot measure up to the model for reasons external to himself. If this permits us to describe a given objective situation as alienating, no matter what people are set in it and no matter what their reactions may be, this is because we have a concept of what these people or the life of these people ought to be. Marx takes this line, and to some extent we all do. The most precise analysis that we can give will have to begin with the concept of man as one who has control, motivation, and information. Hence, it is not scientific. At the same time, this obviously brings us back to the problem of the way of living out a situation. For it is in terms of our concept of man that a situation is found to be alienating or not. We have thus to begin with the moral category of alienation if we are to interpret both what has been said above and also the relation between this effective alienation of man and God's decision for him in Jesus Christ. Huh. Repent before it's too late. I was like run some of these like paragraphs I read through ChatGPT to explain it to me. I think it's good for like retaining what I'm reading and also understanding it better. Okay, one, we have a shared idea of what a good life looks like. Every society has its own idea of what a healthy, fulfilled human being should be. Like the white picket fence and everything. Car, too. People should feel in control of their lives. They should be motivated and have a purpose. They should have access to good information to make decisions. True. We don't have access to good information to make decisions, that's for sure. If someone doesn't meet these standards, we might say they are alienated, meaning they're cut off from living the kind of life we think they should have. Alienation comes from comparing reality to the ideal. Marx and many of us define alienation by comparing what someone's life is like to what we think it ought to be. For instance, if someone is trapped in a job where they feel powerless with no say in their work, we might say they are alienated. Why? Because we believe people should have control over their work. The key is that we already have an idea in our minds of what people's lives should be like. Alienation happens when reality doesn't match the ideal. Judging alienation is not scientific. Since we're using a concept of what humans ought to be, this isn't a purely objective scientific analysis. It's based on values and morality, on what people believe deserve what kind of life is right for them, on what people believe, on what people on on what we believe people deserve and what kind of life is right for them. I read that wrong. Alienation is more about external is more Alienation is about more than external factors. Even though alienation often comes from external things like bad working conditions or lack of freedom, it also depends on how people experience their situation. Two people in the same job might feel very different. One might feel alienated, disconnected, and miserable. The other might not feel alienated at all because they see meaning in what they do. So, alienation isn't just about the situation, it's also about how people live through or interpret their circumstances. Connecting alienation to faith. So, the last part ties the idea to Christian theology. It suggests even though alienation can be described in terms of society and human ideals, it also relates to a deeper spiritual issue. In Christian terms, alienation might also mean being separated from God or from the life of God intends for humanity, or from the life God intends for humanity. The connection is tied to the idea of Jesus Christ as God's solution to human alienation, offering a way to overcome it. So, in summary, alienation means feeling disconnected, out of place, and we judge it based on an ideal of what we think human life should be like. While this concept is influenced by morality and values, it also ties into deeper spiritual questions about the human condition and the meaning of life. The thinking of Marx, which is polemical, as is its extension, is not scientific to non Marxists. It cannot be included among the sciences. It has a global view of man's being and situation, but correctly, to evaluate the situation of man, we have to take other orientations into account, especially those of modern sociology and social psychology. These deal with these deal with something very different, namely facts, which are as scientific as possible, which relate to points of detail rather than a global view, and which are not polemical. But what are these facts? I venture to say that scientific works in these areas, written by authors of very different philosophical and religious persuasions, nearly all give the same impression, namely that man is determined. Note, that we are not referring to a metaphysical option or argument. We have in mind detailed investigations, as scientific as they possibly can be, into the conduct, the situation, the attitudes, and the opinions of man. Furthermore, these works do not reach any general conclusion that man is under total determination. Being specialists, the writers do not enter this field. They do not try to offer global conclusions that would pass as metaphysics. This is why I spoke only of an impression which is given. Indeed, many of these scientific writers are liberals who believe in the particularity, uniqueness, and freedom of man. This is why there often seems to be a kind of contradiction between the body of work and the conclusion. Thanks for the likes. I think I've defeated all the atheists, though. I think it's over. I think I ended atheism. We did it. Atheism is done. Okay, explain this. You done, son? My cat's cuddling me. Okay, so Marx's ideas are not seen as scientific by everyone. Marx's way of thinking is polemical, meaning it's written to argue a specific point of view and challenge existing systems, like capitalism. Non-Marxists don't see his ideas as scientific because they are focused on a big picture, global view of human life and society, rather than on specific, measurable facts. So he's like a continental philosopher. 2, social sciences focuses on facts. Modern fields like sociology and social psychology focus on specific detailed facts about human behavior and attitudes. These facts are collected through research methods that try to be scientific and unbiased as possible. 3, the big difference between Marx and social sciences. Marx provides a global view, a big, overarching explanation of humanity's problems and their causes. This approach is rooted in his ideology and goals for social change. Social sciences, on the other hand, focus on detailed investigations of specific aspects of human life. They avoid making sweeping conclusions about the entire human condition. What do social sciences say about humans? So, research in sociology and psychology often give the impression that humans are influenced or even determined by external factors like society, culture, and upbringing. However, these researchers don't make bold claims about humans being completely determined, like Marx might suggest. They stick to the details and avoid making big philosophical or metaphysical conclusions. So the contradiction. So many of these scientific researchers are liberal thinkers who believe in human freedom and individuality. This creates tension. The research may suggest humans are heavily influenced by external factors, which can imply less freedom, but their personal beliefs often emphasize human freedom and uniqueness. So their work might feel contradictory. The facts they uncover seem to suggest one thing, determination, while their conclusions may lean toward another, freedom. In simpler terms, Marx focuses on big sweeping ideas about how society works and how humans are shaped by it. But this approach is seen as ideological and not strictly scientific. Social sciences stick to detailed research and avoid making grand claims about humanity as a whole. Even so, their findings often suggest humans are shaped by outside forces, but researchers hesitate to say humans are completely determined because many of them value freedom and individuality. This creates a bit of contradiction between what their research shows and what they personally believe. Gurvich has shown this clearly in his moral sociology. He makes it plain to what extent the content and structure depend on external factors, so that in practice everything is determined by social organization or levels of sociability, and morals are extremely variable and uncertain. To safeguard a hierarchy of values and human freedom, however, Gurvich later tells us that this work is that of a sociologist and not to be confused with the work of a metaphysician, whose task it is to decide what values are right and good and to choose between them. Sociological relativism, he says, has nothing whatever to do with philosophical relativi- relativism. The philosopher ought to find ways of integrating the multiplicity into a whole which will have universal validity. How he can do so is not shown. For the philosopher, too, belongs to a given setting and culture. He, too, is precisely determined by these, as the sociologist has demonstrated. He is not an independent demiurge. Ethical thought is dependent on the social structures in which it is formulated. The philosopher is not free to choose, so that the sociological analysis is of no value to anyone. There is no real possibility of synthesis, since every moral system is dependent on the sociological setting and cannot be detached from it. Synthesis presupposes absence of setting. Synthesis. I want a definition of synthesis. Like, what Elul is meaning, what synthesis. I think he's talking about synthesis as opposed to, like, what, like analytical logic or something. So is he talking about like a synthesis between what, like ethical thought is dependent on social structures which are formal, not free to choose the social class. I don't understand what he's saying there. Okay, hopefully ChatGPT can help me because I'm kind of lost on this one. I'm trying to think about what I'm reading here. I'm not just reading it. Mm, Not getting any atheists today, unfortunately. Good morning. Atheism is a necessary precondition for intelligibility. Right. Except for how could atheism be the necessary precondition for intelligibility when, like, you wouldn't be able to experience reality apart from human bias? And if you can't know reality apart from bias, then that's going to reduce to global skepticism. So you won't be able to know anything. Okay, one, what Gurvich says about morality. Moral wait. So this is about the relationship between this sociology, the study of society, and philosophy, the study of values and meaning, focusing on the challenge, trying to synthesize them when it comes to morality. What Gurvich says about morality: morals, ideas of right and wrong, are shaped by the social structure and environments people live in. This means what is considered right or wrong can vary greatly depending on the society or culture. In short, morality is not fixed or universal. It changes based on the context of the social world. Sociology. According to Gurvich, studies how morals are influenced by society. What sociology studies how morals are influenced by society. Sociologists focus on how social structures and interactions shape human behavior and values. Philosophy, on the other hand, is supposed to figure out what values are truly right and good, what values could apply universally to all people beyond any one culture or society. The problem: sociology shows that even philosophers are influenced by the societies they live in. This means that philosophers' ideas about universal values are also shaped by their cultural settings. If all moral systems are rooted in their specific sociological context, how can a philosopher claim. Why the fuck? This wants me to verify I'm a human? Why? Why don't they think I'm a human? No human could stream this much. Hey, Cassie. Okay, so sociology shows that philosophers are influenced by societies they live in. This means philosophers' ideas about universal values are also shaped by their cultural setting. If all moral systems are rooted in their specific sociological context, how can a philosopher claim to find values that are universally valid through God's revelation? Gurevich argues they can't fully escape this influence. Yeah, this is actually a transcendental argument here. I never thought about this, right? Okay, so if I'm a philosopher and I'm trying to do secular philosophy, I can't detach myself from my own culture. And my culture is going to create a bias. So every like moral philosopher is going to be determined by their culture, which means they couldn't they couldn't talk about universal values because of the bias. So to avoid human bias and to get to universal values, we're going to need a concrete universal to reveal himself over the course of human history, therefore giving us some sort of grounding or ability to speak of universal values. Yeah, we're not really getting any atheists today. I think maybe I should like let them win some debates so they come back. I gotta let them win sometimes. The challenge of synthesis. So, a synthesis would mean combining different moral systems into a universal, unified set of values. Okay. But according to this view, that's impossible because every moral system is tied to its specific society. You can't create a universal system without first removing it from all cultural influences, and that's not realistic. In simpler terms, Gurvich is saying that morals are shaped by the societies we live in, and even philosophers who aim to figure out universal truths are influenced by their cultural background. This makes it almost impossible to create a universal set of morals because every moral system is tied to the culture that created it. Sociology highlights this dependence, but it also makes it hard for philosophy to claim it can rise above these influences. It's too early. Welcome only.
Hello.
What'd you like to say?
How old how old do you think the earth is?
I don't know, like 6,000 years.
How did you come to that conclusion?
I don't. I didn't really like. It's not like a position I take really.
Well, you have to take a position. You have to either you know or you don't know. If you don't know, then you're uneducated.
I don't. I don't really care how old the Earth is. I don't.
Well, it matters to your belief system.
I don't.
Well, it matters to your belief system.
Why?
Because if you think it's 6,000 years old, you're wrong.
How would you say? How would you prove me wrong?
Would you agree that light travels at a certain speed? Agree that light travels at a certain speed?
Well, Darth will say that we can't measure the speed of light.
What do you? Well, I'm not talking to Darth. I'm talking to you. What do you think?
Well, we couldn't measure the speed of light because we can't measure the one way direction. We can only measure a two way. Like when we bounce it off something.
Okay, well, let's say we bounce it off something. How fast do you think it moves?
I mean, the two way speed of light is measured, but that doesn't really like give us much. Doesn't really tell us much.
Okay, well, how far away do you think the closest star is to Earth?
I have no
How
idea.
far? How far away do you think that is?
I don't know. Why don't you just tell me?
It's about 2.9 million light years.
Okay.
So, in order for us to see that star, the light will have to travel that distance to reach Earth,
Allegedly, yeah.
which would make the Earth older than 6,000 years old.
Yeah, if that's true.
Well,
You would never know that's
there
true.
can be no absolute truths in life, but as far as we know, to the best of our ability, science has measured light to be about 12 million miles a minute.
Yeah, I understand all that, but it's based off a lot of like prejudicial conjecture.
What do you mean?
So you have data, and then you're interpreting the data.
Yeah.
That's where the prejudicial conjecture comes in when you interpret the data, because the
Oh,
data has multiple paradigms.
so you think science is useless?
No, I think there's a paradigm where the Earth is 6,000 years old, and any of the data that you present could fit the 6,000-year-old paradigm too. And then so it becomes a
But
question.
light has to travel at a certain speed. It can't travel. You know, if you see a bomb going off, say it's 15 mile away from you, you're going to see a flash, and then a few seconds later you're going to hear it, and that's because light travels quicker than sound. So if you put that on a bigger scale, it would take light a certain length of time from the furthest star from us to reach our eyes, which would make the Earth older than 6,000 years. You have to understand, the star would have to literally be closer to us than our own sun if it was 6,000 years old.
All right, but I don't really want to like debate science. So like,
Not the, but
you can't say that science doesn't prove things. There's the problem. I'm trying to determine if you're begging the
come
question.
on, bro. If you got knocked down outside and you're lying in the street, what do you want me to do? Pray for you or call an ambulance?
Both. You're begging the question.
Both. Both. You
They're not
deny
mutually exclusive.
science because your position. You hold the same position as I do, by the way. You can't prove anything either.
Oh, can you prove that?
Exactly. But we can make a good attempt at it.
So you're comfortable just blatantly contradicting yourself, like you have no shame.
I've asked you several questions. You've been unable to answer any of them.
Yeah, I'm not
You
here
just
to.
say, I don't know.
Does
I
it
don't know.
Does it say let's
I'm not
debate
here to
scientific
debate
claims?
science.
Yeah, I don't like science, dude. I don't.
I know you don't. That's why you believe the Earth's 6,000 years old.
All these scientists marry their first cousins. What's up with that?
Bro, now you're just resorting to insults. This is how bad you've got it here.
Why do if these scientists are so smart, why do they marry their first cousin?
I don't know. I can't answer that. I haven't done a scientific test on that.
Do you think it's smart to marry your first cousin?
Do you think it's acceptable for a priest to touch a minor?
No.
Well, neither do I.
So you think Einstein was stupid to marry his first cousin and then assault her?
That's not stupid. That's just wrong.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's wrong. We know better now. But that's because we keep learning every day. If we just keep saying God did it, God did it, God did it, we don't learn anything.
Yeah, and if we say God doesn't exist, then science is impossible.
And if I say science is only here because science has always been here. We just use it like a tool, like like a spanner when you fix an engine. The engine requires the spanner in order to be fixed, and it's the only thing that works. Religion doesn't work.
Science doesn't work without God, though.
Bro, come back to me when you find out the age of the Earth, and you can prove that.
You're using the principle of induction. How would you epistemically justify the principle of induction to do science?
So I said at the beginning of this conversation that science cannot prove anything to be 100% true.
It can't prove itself, right?
Neither can religion. That's circular.
Yes, it can. Because religion has an ultimate. You don't have an ultimate in science.
You're using the Bible to prove the Bible. That's circular.
Yeah, because an ultimate.
Okay, bro. Okay, you're right.
What's ultimate?
Oh, by the way, 6,000 years ago, that's when we invented glue.
The ultimate is
glue, bro. We were
ultimate,
making things 6,000 years ago.
The ultimate is self-authenticating.
You think 6,000 years ago the Earth began? That's when glue was invented. You have to. Do you believe in Adam and Eve?
Yes.
Wow. So you believe in a talking? So you believe in a talking snake?
Yeah.
Wow, bro! I gotta go, man. I can't deal with this.
I have a talking snake on my panel. Of course, I'm going to believe in a talking snake. There's literally one on my panel right now. Yeah. The science is like goofy, dude. It's full of opinion and they act like it's all like objective. It's not. Well, if I just assume the Earth is 4.5 billion years old, then how do you prove me wrong? Literally like presupping me. I presuppose it's 4.5 billion years old, therefore the Earth is 4.5 billion years old. You're just making claims. The earth is circular. Yeah, circular atheism. You're using words. How do you know words have meaning? What are you going to use? Words to tell me that words have meaning? That's circular. Another example of the attempt to say freedom is to be found in the noteworthy work of Stoetzel on public opinion. Stoetzel shows convincingly to what extent public opinion is determined by the social structure and concatenation of a concatenation. Concoctination? Concoctination.
Concatenation.
Concatenation. What?
Concatenation.
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 Concatenation. I never heard that word before. It's a series of interconnected things or events. So Stoetzel shows convincingly to what extent public opinion is determined by the social structure on and a concatenation of external factors. Oh, that sounds weird. These indicate the true situation in which the individual is placed. Analysis of the correlations between the different factors and opinions makes it clear that the whole thinking of the individual is determined and not just his action. But Stoetzel cannot accept what seems to be the conclusion of his own analysis, namely, that we are psychological robots. Cannot opinions become the work of the individual? We thus have a reversal of the process. If the individual can achieve a certain personal maturity, if he is endowed with a minimum of freedom, then explanations of the relation between him and his opinions become inadequate. They are not wrong or useless if they take into account the personal history of the individual and his opinions, and if they enable us in part to predict these. They have their place in a theory of opinions, but they leave a vacant spot in the total picture. This brings us up against the impenetrable mystery of personality. Personality is a phenomenon at the heart of man's being which cannot be localized, analyzed, or explained. It has been said, of course, that there is nothing in the actual study of the formation of opinions to prepare us for this conclusion. The rigorous scientific analysis seems to set before us a group of exact mechanisms which explain pretty well everything that is accessible to it. One can understand the scruples of the authors which lead them to make the final transition, but one has to recognize that we have here two totally different procedures. On the one hand, we have scientific analysis of all the available material, while on the other, we have a leap into metaphysics. Now, if we follow what the social sciences teach us today, we have to agree that this, as experience and knowledge increase, the list of spheres of human determinism increases also. So, what is he saying here? The more science we acquire, the more we realize we're determined by external factors. Analysis of the correlations between different factors and opinions makes it clear that the whole thinking of the individual is determined and not just his actions. So all of our opinions are determined. But Stoessel cannot accept what seems to be the conclusion of his own analysis, namely, that we are psychological robots. Cannot opinions become the work of the individual? We thus have a reversal of the process. If the individual can achieve a certain personal maturity, if he is endowed with a minimum of freedom, then explanations of the relation between him and his opinions become inadequate. They are not wrong or useless to take into account the personal history. Let's do part to predict these. He's just saying, okay, I'm struggling to see what he's saying here. I think he's saying that, like, there's something that the scientific picture is missing. While I reject completely the definition of freedom which is given in source, namely that it is being able to become what we ought to be. So freedom is to be able to become what we ought to be, which is a false solution of the problem of liberty and necessity, and which also introduces a moral criterion. I like the central thought of the authors when they insist on the contradiction between the desire or a sense of freedom and scientific proof of non-freedom. Weird. Let me try to understand this. I'll try to chat GBT this. I can put the footnote in there too. He starts talking about personality here. My cat's snoring. You snoozing, baby? This passage grapples with whether individuals truly have freedom in forming opinions or if they are entirely shaped by external factors like society, personal history, and environment. Here's the explanation in simpler terms. What Stoetzel's study shows, public opinion. Public opinion, or what people believe and think, is heavily influenced by the social structure, the way society is organized, and external factors like culture, environment, and relationships. When analyzing these influences, it seems like everything about a person's opinions and even their thinking is determined by these external factors. The problem, are we just robots? If our opinions are entirely shaped by these outside forces, does this mean we have no freedom and are like psychological robots, just reacting to our surroundings? Stoetzel struggles with this conclusion. He doesn't believe that people are fully determined by these factors. He asks, can't people's opinions reflect their individuality and freedom? The idea of freedom. Stoetzel suggests that if a person achieves personal maturity, a certain level of self-awareness and independence, they can exercise freedom in forming their opinions. However, scientific studies of opinion formation don't fully explain this freedom. They can predict a lot about how opinions are shaped, but leave a missing piece, something about the individual's unique personality that can't be measured or analyzed. The mystery of personality. Stoetzel calls this missing piece the mystery of personality, something deep within us that makes us more than just products of our environment. It's not something science can easily explain or even study. It's metaphysics. Two ways of understanding. There are two approaches here. One, scientific analysis studies how opinions are formed based on external factors. It explains a lot but doesn't address deeper questions about individuality and freedom. Two, philosophy and metaphysics explores the deeper, unexplainable aspects of human freedom and personality. These two methods don't fully overlap, and Stoetzel acknowledges this tension. The tension between science and metaphysics. It shouldn't say philosophy / metaphysics because we can't really associate modern philosophy with metaphysics anymore, I don't think. since modern philosophy is a freaking joke. They don't even attempt to do metaphysics. They just ignore metaphysics. So how is it modern philosophy? I should say like ancient philosophy. Man, it is cold as hell today. Hell froze over. People are not predictable or easily controlled. That's false. Where people are like they imitate others, right? So a lot of propaganda is through entertainment. So people emulate what they see of like celebrities or athletes. That's just one simple like it's super deep. Like we're in a complete environment of propaganda, and that because propaganda is the total environment that it's invisible. So people think that propaganda is like one ideology pushing an ideology. That's not propaganda. It's every ideology. People think that propaganda is like the media telling a false giving false information, or false information is propaganda. False information is not propaganda. Typically propaganda is accurate information, and what they do is it's about framing a narrative and highlighting any facts that support the narrative and ignoring facts that go against the narrative. So the lie takes place in the narrative, not in the facts. People confuse that. They think the facts are the lie part, but they're not. It's the narrative. Like when the media was talking about Joe Rogan taking horse tranquilizers for COVID. That's technically accurate, but it's a deceptive way of framing the reality of the situation, because he wasn't taking he was taking medication approved for humans, but like is also used for horses or something like that. It's not as if he was taking medication that's approved for horses or something. So it's true what they said, but it's deceptive how they framed the truth. Because when like we can frame any fact and make it seem like good or bad, right? Like I could say golf is just swinging a club at a stupid ball. It just makes it sound like a waste of time or something. But then most people, I could also describe golf in a way that like, oh, golf's like a great way to socialize with other people and enjoy the outside fresh air, right? I'm using facts. I'm using facts in both instances. Or I could say like playing the violin the violin makes beautiful sweet music, right? I could say that. Or I could say playing the violin is just rubbing horse hairs on cow intestine. Or is it pig intestine? I think it's pig intestine. So that's true. Both those are true, but one is framed to make playing the violin look good. One is framed to make playing the violin look bad. Both are factual. So framing, right? That's really important in the debate. You have to frame the debate. Actually, the atheists are constantly, all they do is try to frame the debate. They don't try to make an argument. Whenever the atheist talks, all they're doing is framing, where they're trying to say like misinformation. What? Are you kidding me? I got a warning for misinformation. Am I not allowed to talk about propaganda? What? What misinformation am I? I'm not giving any information. I'm just talking about a concept. What? I literally just got a flag for misinformation. Are you kidding me? I'm just talking about propaganda. That is nuts. Yeah. How do I get flagged for misinformation? I wasn't promoting flat earth. I wasn't talking about vaccines. Not that I'm a flat earther. What myth? That is weird. Yeah, free speech. Well, Kierkegaard said people demand freedom of speech as a compensation for freedom of thought, which they seldom use. Actually, do I have that on my? I wonder if I have that on my phone. Let me see. I'm gonna go get it if I don't. Go get it. Go get it. I think I have it. I know I have. Yeah, here it is. Yeah, see? Badass quote right there. Darth warned me about Kierkegaard. Well, he had some out there ideas, right? See, I like Darth is like a lot more, I guess, what orthodox or conservative and like how he thinks about things, and I'm like way outside. Me and Darth are completely opposite in that aspect. I'm way outside the box thinking, but Darth is better at like analytical logic than me by far, but I think I'm better at like continental philosophy. What happened to free speech? No one even cares about free speech. They don't care about their rights. It's my right. Yeah, what's up, Darth? I see you in the chat. We haven't gotten anyone today. Like, no one's. So I've just been like reading. I'm reading about Karl Marx, actually. Kind of. One of his ideas, his idea of alienation. But now we were talking about society determining our opinions, uh, the mystery of personality, two ways of understanding. Okay, yeah, we have the scientific analysis, studies how opinions are formed based on external factors. It explains a lot, but it doesn't address deeper questions about individuality and freedom. And then we have like the philosophy, metaphysical way of understanding, where that's a deeper, unexplained aspects of human freedom and personality. The methods don't overlap, but Stoetzel acknowledges this tension. They don't fully overlap, they somewhat overlap. A bigger conclusion. Okay, as our knowledge grows, science shows that more and more aspects of human behavior are determined by external forces, but at the same time, people still have this sense of freedom and individuality that science struggles to explain fully. In simpler terms, Stoetzel's study shows that society and external factors shape much of what we think and believe, but he argues that there's something unique about each person, something science can't fully measure, that allows for freedom and individuality in forming opinions. This creates a tension between what science tells us about human behavior and what we feel about our own freedom. This is something we highlight in Precept. Like a lot of times, the scientific atheist-minded type person is going to be a determinist, but that is, what would they say? That is counterintuitive to our experience because we feel like we can have the freedom to make choices and all that. But anything we study, it just says the opposite, that everything's like determined scientifically. How does science prove God? Well, the fact that we can do science proves God. Science doesn't make metaphysical claims, but it requires metaphysical claims. Your experience of choice is an illusion. See, it's so crazy. They don't even believe they can choose anything. I got a meme for that one. Top tier meme. I like this one. The absurdity of atheism, right there in a meme. Okay, so this area is a very different one from that of alienation. We do not have here man's disposition by forces or by other men, but simply by the documenting of many determinative elements which condition all man's psycho-sociological activities. To give a summary of some of the more important points, we may refer to man's conditioning by culture in the sense of American sociologists. A man's cultural setting not only furnishes him with a certain lifestyle, mode of behavior, and morality, it also furnishes him with the instruments of his intellectual life and the structures of his emotional life. It gives him his language and consequently the images, stereotypes, and interpretations by which he apprehends the totality of phenomena. He has no direct contact with facts. Precept right there. He has contact with them via the intellectual apparatus which is given him in advance by his culture. Boom! That's a great precept line there. That is a great. I might right. Yeah, I'm gonna save this quote. Um, I like that one. A man's cultural setting not only furnishes him with a certain lifestyle, mode of behavior, and morality, it also furnishes him with the instruments of his intellectual life and structures of his emotional life. It gives him his language and consequently the images, stereotypes, and interpretations by which he apprehends the totality of phenomena. He has no direct contact with facts. He has contact with them only via the intellectual apparatus, which is given him in advance by his culture. So when they make this argument like, oh, you're just a Christian because you grew up in a Christian culture, can I just like flip that on them and say, well, you're just an atheist because you grew up in a secular culture? You're just an atheist because of the Enlightenment's effect on society. You're just an atheist because of people people's what would I say? I can't think of the right word. People's people worshiping because people worship science due to scientific miracles or something like that. You're just an atheist because of the scientific wonders the scientific miracles have convinced everyone of the because we went to the moon, but it's like, who cares we went to the moon? What was the point of that? See, science will just ask like, can we do something? It doesn't ask like, should we be doing this? Which is an important question. You think you have full access to the working of your brain? No, I don't. But God does. God knows all the hairs on my heads. Oh, I got a really good, I like this meme. What is my thought on flat earthers? I think that like because of 9/11 truth movement on the internet, a lot of people woke up to the fact that we're being lied to. And once people realized the government's lying to them, then they become like paranoid, and they don't know what to believe or what's real. Their reality becomes like illusory. What is it called? They're sort of like disassociated from reality because they once you figure out that you've been like brainwashed and lied to, and then you're willing to believe anything that's like not mainstream. So because flat earth is not mainstream, they're willing to believe it because they start to think that everything they've been told is a lie. It's like an extreme reaction to realizing that the government's lying. So like people, some like grow up young and they trust and believe in the government and their society. They get some of them wake up and they go, oh, wait a minute, we're all being lied to. Like 9/11 did this to a lot of people. And then then you're like willing to believe anything because you're like, well, what everything is a lie now. Some people get really extreme. People like rush to extremes. There's like a lot more nuance to the real world than just like everything's an extreme. So people, they think everything's a lie, then they'll believe anything. They believe ancient aliens and flat Earth and Tartaria, mud floods, and on and on and on and on. Shape shifting reptilians, and so. And what they do is they intentionally associate legitimate, like conspiracy theories with like goofy stuff like flat Earth, and so anything like legitimate gets it's what is that, like a poisoning the well. Hey Darth, I haven't been getting like anyone today.
God of the gaps, rot. God of the gaps, rot. Shifting the burden of proof, rot. Shifting the burden of proof, rot. I went on another atheist stream called Cyber Deconstruction.
Yeah, I've been on his. Yeah.
The guy is borderline psychotic. He clearly has mental problems. He would not let me talk. Okay. Every time I started to speak, he just immediately interrupted. You know, he's proof positive that they just want to pick on low-hanging fruit.
Yeah, I went on
And then, before I forget, if you go to his channel or stream, he uploaded the video, but he truncated the first portion of it. I posted a comment, which I rarely post comments on videos, that he didn't post the full video because the full video would just show his total abusiveness.
Was this recent? I had a guy, they're being really goofy with me on this
to have a
one.
conversation with me.
Oh, you muted out there. Was that recent?
Yeah, it was last night.
Oh, okay. I might check out that video.
Yeah, but he didn't. He only uploaded the tail end of it. He didn't upload the whole time. I wasn't there a very long time,
Yeah.
but he deliberately cut off the first portion of it.
To make you look
Okay.
worse.
Oh yeah, yeah. So I mean, look, we joke about this a lot, but in my view, my opinion, I think he literally exemplifies the teenage in an adult body. He literally comes across as a cantankerous, hypercaffeinated teenager.
I was on a live with a bunch of like low information people, and this guy goes on his cam, and he writes on